Alrighty, so this is a series that I want to start on my main channel, which is going to be introducing and talking to creators from all over the web. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Hobbies with Jose as our first guest.
Dude, thank you so much for having me here, dude. It is an honor to be here. Thank you.
I'm so glad you said yes. It's great. Gosh, so I've got questions and bits, but to start off, you not everybody knows who you are on my channel per se, so I would love it if you could introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you do. um
So, Hobbies with Jose, obviously. I go by Jose. I go by Hobbies. Even some people call me Hobbies. That's totally fine.
I get Nectar all the
And
time.
yes, yes. And basically on my channel, what I do a variety of things. Obviously, the main thing is going to be customizing Transformers. And what I like to do is treat them like model kits, break them apart, from the bits, give them a fresh coat of paint, make them look as clean as I can, as good as I can. It's always very satisfying. But apart from that, I also like to game. I'm also over on the Twitch side. I like to video game. I like to draw. I have drawing streams and whatnot, which is why I very supposedly tactically named my channel nothing to do with Transformers. It is hobbies. It is hobbies. Although the algorithm sometimes doesn't like that, though, right? So
Yeah. Oh god, I
we stick to Transformers first and foremost.
yeah, no, I totally agree. I've tried to do other bits because I'm a nerd of all sorts, right? But Transformers,
Yeah,
like, it's what does well, and if you like it already, it's easy to do more of that, right?
exactly. 100%.
So your main channel has 4,666 subscribers. You
Oh,
got
is that where I'm at?
yeah. This is the I'll try to come prepared. So you got 354 videos, and in the last year, your videos have gotten over 47,300 views. What
Those are
made
big
you
numbers.
want to
Yeah.
start? Like, what made you want to pick up the camera and go, "Yeah, I'm gonna make a YouTube channel."
Oh, yeah, that's a big question because I think in IRL in real life, I would probably say that I can be very not closed off entirely, but a little bit just to keep to myself. And I've been a Transformers fan since they started, since way back in the 80s, but I haven't been a fan throughout the legacy of Transformers. Definitely been times that I would not be as into it. They would go through different phases. Transformers always reinvents itself, but it was a combination of things. Very specifically, I think when I first saw the trailer for the Bumblebee movie, and I saw how they redesigned a lot of the characters for the movie, it was very much a breath of fresh air. The Bayverse movies they've done great.
Yeah.
I've fallen in and out of them and whatnot. Didn't really care for them all that much, but the Bumblebee movie was just so different. And so when I saw the movie, I had a blast. I had a blast. I really enjoyed it. And after that, it really got me thinking to get back into collecting or whatnot. And so once I started doing that, then the pandemic happened,
Yeah.
where the world literally changed. For me, in my job, I was able to start working from home, but we were literally like on lockdown. And because I live alone, you start to get a little bit antsy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
started watching so much YouTube at that point, of just a variety of things. And obviously, a lot of Transformers review channels would come up. And I would look at them like, wow, that's really good content. I think I could do that. It doesn't seem that hard. What? Get a camera, and so that's really how it started. That's really how it started. And I was thinking about, well, what's my channel going to be about? Well, I can draw. Oh, I'm doing these customizations. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll try it out. And it just kind of got the ball rolling from there. But that was really the nexus of the whole thing. So thank you, Bumblebee, I guess. Thank you, Pandemic.
So were you were doing the hobbies and stuff before the YouTube channel, right? Like this was a natural progression to just like, okay, I'll start recording it now, or did you start doing the hobbies because of the channel?
No, I've been doing hobbies for many years as well. I would do like traditional model kits. Either like Star Trek, Star Wars ship model kits. I would love doing those. Gundams here and there. But the specific problem that I had with Bumblebee is that when I saw the movie and I really loved it, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna get back into collecting these figures. What are my options? And from what I saw, there were two primary options to go from. There's the mainline toys,
Yeah, yeah.
but they're exactly that. They're because they're toys. They're meant for a wide audience. There's a certain budget that goes into them. a certain amount of paintwork, a certain amount of modeling and whatnot, and they have to transform. So there's going to be some kibble on them and whatnot. Um, or there's a third party options, whereas you can have this really big bumblebee that looks pretty much exactly how does in the movie, super painted, super weathered, but it's super expensive too. And the thing about where I live, it's a pretty small apartment. I don't have a lot of room, so that's where I really decided, well, what if I take these little mainline figures, and because I have years of doing model kits, I can give them my own paint job. Treat them like a model kit, and try to make them look as good as I can. A lot of the ones in the beginning, though, like I wasn't really as concerned as with the transformation. Like if you look at the verse Bumblebee that I did,
Oh yeah,
I got
yeah.
rid of so much kibble. And that the Volkswagen Beetle is literally a shell. I can probably glue it all together, make a shell out of it. But I got rid of all just to make as clean of a bot mode as I wanted to. But I think having the background in model kits definitely helped. Like I didn't start fresh as far as, oh well, how do you customize it, because that would be really tricky.
Yep.
I kind of knew. I think the trickiest part for me was how do you disassemble it,
I was
because
gonna say because they're like pre-assembled
yeah,
model kits, right? Like,
exactly. When you buy a model kit, it's already in pieces. But when you're buying a transformer, it's not really meant to be taken apart. They didn't really construct it that way, and so you do a lot of research. There were some videos out there. There wasn't a whole lot of content on customizing though,
and this is
and
actually this is a great story because that's where I found your videos.
oh
Actually, is
really?
because I was interested in customizing stuff on my own, and of course your Earthrise Optimus video pops up on one of the first suggested, and
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, who's this
yeah.
guy? I
To
think
this
you.
day, the Optimus Prime video is like the number one watched video on the
Yeah.
channel.
Oh god, I can see why. And I remember because I was I have that figure, and I was like, because I do 3D printing stuff, right? I'm trying to figure
Hmm.
out like how did that work? How do those joints work? And I'm like, well, I don't need to take apart mine because you've already gone and recorded it in 4K or whatever, and you've got every little pin punch, how to get the paint stripped nicely and not, dissolve your figure, as I've seen some accidents happen on the
Yeah.
internet.
Oh yeah, because yeah, if no one's ever done it, if you're doing it for the first time, you can be surprised at how some of these parts are. Like when the last one that I did, animated jazz, there were some pieces on him that are painted, but they're actually clear plastic
Oh god.
underneath. And I'm like, oh, I wish I would have known that from the get-go. Well, now we know. Now it's in video, for anybody else that wants to make him. But yeah, it is satisfying to have the process laid out now. Hey, if anybody wants to know, oh, watch out for this piece or try not to do this. One of the methods that I saw when I started doing this was, I don't know if you've seen this, using a soldering iron to heat up the wide pins because they're
Yeah,
very
I've
hard
never
to try
done
to
it
punch out.
because it scares me, but
Yeah, I tried it.
oh gosh.
Rest in peace, very first Bumblebee. He did not survive.
Oh
I think
no.
I literally melted his shoulder. I had to buy another one. So that's one reason why with the wide pins, I know I don't touch those. And people tell me, well, if you just use a hot iron, well, yeah, I know I tried it, but I'm sure I could learn to do it correctly, but I'll just leave it as is.
The risk reward is not worth it a lot of the time,
Sometimes it's
and
too risky.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I that so that Bumblebee is that was your first ever video on the channel, was that?
No, that one was my first ever custom, but I wasn't doing the channel then. I did Bumblebee. I did the first Studio Series Optimus Prime based on the Bumblebee movie, and I did Dropkick. I did those three, and then when I started doing Shatter, she became my very first custom
That's
on that
right,
channel.
that's
So
right. Yeah, because I remember I watched your Earthrise Optimus, and then I went back and I found stuff like Shadow. And again, it was fascinating seeing, like, because obviously, like, you're looking at it, you're going, okay, cool, these are techniques and stuff that I can learn and stuff. But also, like, your paint work is extremely clean, dude. Like,
thank you, dude. Thank you, dude. I do appreciate that. And it is a matter of like having a plethora of tools obviously does help. I do tell people, even if you don't have an airbrush, if you properly thin your paints, if you do, multiple coats, you can get good looking paints. But again, it's just the whole background of having the whole model kits and whatnot. It's having a little bit of patience too, especially when you get to the very end of a project. You can't just help but I want to see this completed like right now. It's like, oh, look, come on, let's go. But no, you got to let things dry. Okay, all right, we'll give it a chance. But
as the
it just takes
worst
time.
part is when you got to wait for that first coat of paint to dry,
Yeah.
and you're
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, it's too late to go back now, but what have I done?
Exactly. Oh yeah. Plus also the weather sometimes, depending on where you
Oh
live,
dear.
it can be too hot, it can be too cold. There can be a different number of factors that it might just be out of your control too.
I live in New Zealand, and you get too hot, too cold throughout the day.
Really? Oh
which
my
is
God! Wow.
yeah, you especially where I live, we're in a bit of a valley. So in the morning it's like freezing and your printer like 3D printers don't want to start up. And then in the afternoon you're sweating, it's boiling and everything. And then in the evening it goes back and it's like
Are you kidding me? Really?
no, but then it depends on the day as well. Like it's not as I mean we get seasons
Oh,
obviously, but
yeah. Yeah, if
um
it's changing like throughout the day, that would be even more problematic. I even tried to have there's because I have a resin printer and it's enclosed.
mm,
I have these little oh, it's like a little portable heater that can help you to control the temperature within it. I haven't used it yet because so far I've had decent prints.
yep.
Um, but I have it ready just in case. I like to be prepared for different situations and whatnot. So who knows if I'll have to use it in the future. Knock on wood, I probably won't have to. So we'll see.
Yeah. So what got you into 3D printing then? Was this just like the natural progression of like, okay, I need to make custom parts for the figures, or would you
Well, it's tough to say because the technology has advanced really rapidly since it initially started. Some of the first ones, it can be very tricky to get up and running, especially with the not the resin. What's the other type? I think the type that you use,
FDM? So they
FDM.
use their plastic ones.
Yeah, I think I had one to start with, and I think my trouble was getting the beds like very perfectly level and
Oh my
whatnot.
God, yeah.
But just to have like the possibilities in your head, wow, what can I do with this thing now? What kind of customizations, or how can I supercharge these customizations with extra add-ons? Maybe not something from the ground up. I'm not at your level and whatnot, but just to make extra add-ons,
Yeah, no,
it seems totally worth it.
was it detritus that when you turned detritus into Hound, you printed like the whole
Yes,
bumper and everything, and
yes.
yeah, yeah.
And again, it wasn't myself designing it. I had a lucky viewer that was kind enough to tell me, hey, I've already designed this. It's on 3dcodes.com. Feel free to check it out. And I was like, oh, dude, absolutely. And of course, I would give him the shot on the video. I would make some minor tweaks myself to like try to thin it out because I would try to go as thin as possible on my resin printer. And obviously, you gotta massage it. You have to sand certain edges off and whatnot. But
Yeah,
that piece, because it's on the chest, it's like right there front and center. It makes
yeah.
such a huge difference just to help it look actually like a real Jeep. So
Yeah.
I'm super happy just having this printer.
It's so cool because, like you say, like having the how quickly the technology's evolved in like the last 10 years. Because you're talking about those old printers. I have a MakerBot Replicator 2, which is like a printer from 2015, I think.
2015, dude. Wow.
It's all springs. You gotta manually level it. You gotta put the blue tape
Oh,
down to get the
wow.
adhesion. It's like I know those struggles. I so
You're working old
and
school.
it's something that I think a lot of people forget because you're like, oh, okay, so I've gotten the files. I didn't have to like no maintaining the printers and the physical machines is a whole nother job on itself.
Yeah.
So do you tend to like dial in your printer, or are you happy with just you do the post processing later?
When I recently when I initially got set up with the resin printer, yeah, there was a lot of tweaks to do, a lot of test prints, and I would try to dial it in as closely as I can. And I got very happy with how they looked, and even the whole process because it's a lot messier with the printer that you have. You have a lot of post processing with the cleanup and whatnot. But once I've been happy with how they turn out, it's been very minimal as far as what I need to do for the next print. I'll have it. It's literally behind me. Haven't used it since I think detritus, and I could confidently just turn it on. I won't even have to level it. I'll just have to set it up, put the resin in, and there's about a 90% chance that print's gonna come out pretty good. And if not, okay, we'll do some minor tweaks and whatnot. But it's not like this whole process. I took almost the entire day to really try to zero in. Part of the reason also is because I don't want to keep messing with that as well because it,
Yep.
it is a process. But the good thing about the one that I have, I forgot which one it is. I think it's a mono. It's a 4K printer. Details are astounding.
Yep.
And once it's set up, yeah, very minimal setup afterwards.
This
So I
is
think I've been lucky. Yeah.
You've been, yeah, no, this is something I'm only learning recently, really, is like, yeah, it's gonna take you said like a day to do all the setup, right? And I don't know how many benchy boats you printed off, but, do you have to do that on resin ones? But no, it's something I'm learning lately is that like, cause I used to sort of be like, I'll sand it later. And it's like, actually, no, you put that work in up front, you're saving so much time in the long run.
100%. 100%. I think the only minor thing right now where it's overexposing a couple of lines. So some of the base some of the base layers are a little bit thicker, but just to help it stick to the actual plate, because
Yep.
you're printing it upside down on a resin printer. So I wanted to have that extra little bit of thickness to make the print kind of survive.
Yep.
But it's just a little bit of sanding afterwards. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm looking forward to using it more in the future.
Yeah, I was it the so you said animated jazz was your last full custom, and I'm pretty sure you did the weapons with the
Yeah, oh,
resin
that's
printer.
right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot about that. And I was a
Oh,
little bit concerned because I don't do much design work like on Blender or
mm,
anything. The only thing that I've really done is that the nameplate for the Bumblebee model kit, the trumpeter kit that I did a while
I
back,
remember
I
that.
wanted
Yeah,
to have
yeah.
his name on the base, which has turned out great. But for animated jazz, since he didn't come with the weapons, I thought I'm gonna have to design these weapons, and they're not complicated. They're basically tubes with a bit of a twist at the end, right? Again, I got lucky with Colts3D.com. Somebody already did the hard work for me. So, download the file. And I did the first test print. Again, a little bit of sanding with the pegs and whatnot, but they turned out beautifully. They turned out great. I couldn't be happier with them.
It is amazing, and it's like you say, it's enabled this sort of because like 10 years ago it would have been what styrene and like trying to cut each sheet by hand to sculpt it
Oh
or green
yeah.
stuff, and now it's
Yeah.
like it's quicker and it's stronger as well. Like I know the resin can be bristle depending on what you're doing, but like if you support it properly, it's as good as a official figure, right? Like
Yeah. And the only thing I'm gonna be curious to see is how these customs survive years down the road. I think with as far as resin, it can require a bit more upkeep. I've got them in the display case. I'm not really handling them on a regular basis. They're just there. They're away from the sun. So I'm hoping they last for a long time. But I guess we'll have to see. I'm not really too concerned. I mean, if anything, I can always reprint another one and just plop it back on there. So I think we'll be, especially an accessory. An
yeah.
accessory is removable. Say for example, if the Tritus or excuse me, Hound. Let me not name him incorrectly here. He is Hound now officially. If something were to happen to that chest, it might be a little bit more tricky to get that fixed, but I know I can get that done. So
Yeah, and
not a big deal.
you've still got the base files, right? You can reslice
Oh
it, you
yeah.
reprint it, like
Oh, 100%. I would hate to lose those because having to refind them. Well, probably wouldn't be too tough, but I did thin it out myself a little bit, so I've got them saved on the computer. So I
yeah.
think I'll be good. Again, knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh. So obviously like a large part of your channel is Transformers related, right? And doing the custom stuff.
Yeah.
And you said you were a fan from the start. What was that like? What was the thing that hooked you at Transformers? Because for me, being
Oof.
a lot of people say I'm a very young fan, and even then, like my stuff was Prime, like Transformers Prime and shows like that. So Bumblebee hooked you back in, but what got you initially? Um,
Oh man, I think it's hard to say. Back then, I think it was primarily the original G1 show. I remember seeing I mean, they would have video stores back then on these VHS,
yeah,
tapes, and I would remember seeing them promoting the cartoon show, but just being able to see it on TV was a gift, and just the absolute concept. I don't think it's really had been done before of having kind of like two toys in one.
yeah.
It's like, what do you want to? You want to have a toy robot or do you want to have a toy car? Well, what if you had them both all in one figure? It was so novel back then. I think we kind of take that for granted nowadays, but just back then that was a hot new thing. And I didn't have a lot of actual Transformers back then growing up. I think one of my first ones was one of the Insecticons,
Oh yeah.
and I had one of the Monster Bots, and that was kind of it. But I
Oh
had a
yeah.
neighbor who lived across the street from me, and he had almost everything. So by default, he was my best friend. We'd always go over and we would play the Transformers. But yeah, just the show itself is what really brought him to life. The characters, the voice acting, maybe not so much the animation, but when you're a little kid, you're not really as analytical as far as the animation airs going on. You don't think about that. It's just the story. They had that down pat from the beginning, and I think it was just starting from there.
Absolutely. I mean, I say Transformers Prime is what got me into it, but after that, I went and found DVD sets of like season three and like the
Of
original 80s
G1,
movie
really?
of G1. Yeah. So actually, like, despite the
Whoa,
fact that
okay.
Prime got me into it, I've seen all of G1. G1 is my main show. Like, Five Faces of Darkness got rewatched a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So
It's
you had a good time watching G1 then?
absolutely because I would have watched it when I was like what 5, 6, I think, when I first
Okay,
saw it. And like you say, you don't pick up on the animation errors. You don't pick on
that's
that.
true.
It's I think the only thing that I do remember was I was looking at the figures coming out and going, why don't they look like them? And then of
Yeah,
course we got 86 Optimus and all these figures, and it's like, oh, there we go. It only took us 10 years.
exactly. I don't know how little kid me would react if I had 86 Optimus Prime back in the mid 80s. I think my little kid brain would just pop, you know? It's amazing how much the tech has gone. But I do often wonder because I haven't seen the show in ages. I've seen little clips here and there, and some of it is rough.
Yes.
I often wonder what it would be like if I was to really try to watch the G1 show. Obviously, it would be with a more discerning eye.
Mm.
You know what to expect. I don't know if I would have as much fun watching it now, but obviously, there's a number of ages, a number of years in the middle and whatnot. But it just gets you at a certain age where you're just primed for it. Excuse the no pun intended, but but you're
No,
just
that's
ready to
brilliant.
accept it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Oh gosh, I've tried my best to get like friends and family into G1 stuff as well. And you could sort of tell, like, if it is their very first time watching it at the age I am now, it's like
Hmm.
it's cool. They can see
Yeah.
why it took on, but
Hmm.
it never seems to click with them in quite the same way. I think you're right. It's like you have to be that right age where it's like, whoa. And then from there
Yeah.
you're hooked, right? Like
Yeah. That's true, and
um,
it's interesting. I think there's definitely where a lot of people, a lot of kids back then that they got into it, and because of the fact that Transformers also naturally reinvents itself. G1 was only around for a number of years, so I think some kids would then grow out of it, or maybe they weren't as much into it. And I think for me, that's what happened when Beast Wars was becoming a thing. I
mm,
One of the things with Beast Wars, I definitely recognize how it had superior animation. It's obviously 3D animated, and
yeah,
even
yeah.
the writing I could tell was a lot better than it was with G1. But I think the hurdle for me that was probably a little bit too much to try to get past. I was trying to think, all right, so they're animals now, but are they still robotic, or are they fleshy? What's going on here? And little by little, you kind of drop out. But definitely the first time that I remember getting back into it was definitely animated. When I first saw animated, a lot of the designs, even though a lot of the designs initially you think, wow, what's going on here? They're very different. But you look at the show, and even though maybe it was aimed towards a young audience,
Mm.
it very much paid homage to a lot of G1, a lot of stuff from throughout the whole franchise. Super entertaining, super entertaining. That got me back into even collecting the figures too back then. Although, some because I ended up having so many figures, I had to get rid of a whole lot of them. But
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I think is in your it might have been your jazz video recently, where you
Mhm.
were saying like you had nearly every figure from animated.
Every
Like,
mainline figure from animated, yeah. If the character was on the show and they had a figure, I got it.
oh
I got it.
wow.
Now, the one that I got sent by Dominic Zen, hello Dominic Zen, shout outs to
Yeah.
him. He sent me the retooled, not the retool, but the repaint that was the Freeway Jazz, the gray one. I never had that one. It looked cool, but because it was never in the show, I just stuck with the main one. I thought it was great. But I've got him now, so I'm happy for that. He's not going to go anywhere now.
Add him to the
He's here
shrine.
for good.
Yeah. Oh gosh,
Yeah.
you're totally right. Because animated was the first time where like I think fans of G1 were now old enough to actually go and work on the new shows, right? And so you
Oh
got
yeah,
and Derek J. Wyatt, like, oh my gosh, the amount of Easter eggs and homages he managed to sneak into every crowd
dude.
scene. I think Mainframe's there, like what?
Yes, a hundred
um,
percent.
yeah, so I
And there rewards
remember,
a lot of rewatching of the show too.
yeah, something you
Hmm.
never pick up on the first go, right? It's like, oh wait a minute, is that Grandus? I...
Can you
um,
imagine if we got another season?
Oh my word! There's people on YouTube doing fan ones where they got the original storyboards and bits and trying to piece it together.
Oh, I
So
think somebody made a comic book, a fan made comic
yep.
of a continuing, and they got actual some of the original voice actors to do
Oh
a reading of it, which sounds like freaking amazing. I'd have to go check that out. But that's all we can pretty much hope for, right? Unless there's an actual reboot, but
okay,
or at least we have legacy figures at
I
this
was gonna
point.
say we got legacy figures now. I feel the
Mhm.
exact same way with Prime because it's like it did amazing at the time, and now it's sort of like, oh yeah, that exists. Like they never seem to mention it anymore, and it's like, oh.
Yeah,
I mean, even the
I
legacy
think
figures are a bit they're homages,
part
I
of the
guess.
reason Part of the reason is because again, this is owned by Hasbro, Takara Tama, and they are primarily toy companies.
Yep.
And I think it's that fact that when they have whatever line we have, whatever show we have, it only has so long to live before we have to start fresh. All right, it's time
Yep.
for the next thing. We need another Optimus Prime. So it could be a little bit to its detriment. Could these shows, could animated and Prime has survived for others? He's 100%, 100%. But we got
Yeah.
to move on to the next thing. Come on, let's go. What
I
are we gonna
think
do?
in a way, like obviously I'm sad to see shows like Animated and Prime end, but
Yeah,
you end up getting things like because Animated ended, Prime happened, right? And I think like
yeah,
would I have loved Prime to have gotten another 5 seasons or whatever? Hell yes. But then we
yeah.
got Robots in Disguise,
Hmm.
Cyberverse, and we got Earthspark now. Like, and something I forget is that with each new show, this is the next generation's G1, right? And so
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to see that. So it's like I totally understand like wanting for more, obviously, but there is also a bit of me that's like I can't be too mad.
Exactly.
um,
We're gonna let the younger fans in, and they're gonna enjoy just as we did,
yeah.
growing up and whatnot, and the cycle starts anew. You know.
So I feel like you probably already answered this, but I was going to ask, what is your favorite piece of Transformers media? So like cartoon, comics, or is there multiple? Like, because obviously for me it would be G1 and then Prime. Um, I'm gonna guess maybe animated from what we talked about, but
Wow, my favorite. Now we're talking also comics.
we're talking also got like any piece of Transformers media, video games, like comics, Creo cans, like.
It's such a wide net, and it
uh,
is it is hard to say. Now, even though I became a fan during G1, I always consider G1 to be a very good start for Transformers, and obviously not the end all be all of what Transformers can be. Animated's up there. Animated is definitely up there. I think for me personally, on a closer note, maybe because of recency bias, perhaps, but the new Skybound Transformers comic is just
oh,
knocking it out of the park. Oh my god, it's basically G1 but reimagined, and it's perfect for new fans to come in if they don't know anything about it. You can come in and you can enjoy it. I wouldn't say it's overly dark, but have you had a chance to read this yourself?
I've seen bits and pieces. Where I live, we're not really getting a lot of the issues as they come out, so I've been sort of
Ah,
going online to find. I've got all the major spoilers, so like I know the tone it's got. I know what happens to Optimus's arm and everything. Like it's
yeah, I'm guessing maybe you've
oh.
seen some of the splash page drawings of Optimus Prime just drop kicking some Decepticons, which is amazing. Yeah, and I won't give any story specifics and whatnot, but it's just it's really refreshing to see and treat Optimus faithfully. A lot of these characters faithfully, and even give a new character to characters that we don't see maybe as often
Oh yeah.
before. It's so lovely. The creator DWJ are his abbreviation.
Hmm.
I think he's on there for until about issue
Is it
24.
Daniel Warren Johnson?
Daniel Warren Johnson, thank you so much. Yeah, he's fantastic. He's fantastic. And I think the art style is a little bit something to get used to, not what you would expect as well, but it just pulls you right in. It pulls you right in. And I wish he'll be on there for 100 issues, but I can only hope. I can only hope. We'll see how it goes. But I'm enjoying what we're getting so far. I think that because we're living it right now, it's alive. We
Yeah.
don't know where it's going. That is probably my most favorite thing for Transformers right now.
No, that's perfect. I actually I really love the fact that you say the thing that's happening now because that tells me
Mhm.
Transformers is still
It's
alive,
still
right? It's still
alive.
going. And you're right, that art style, like it's very clearly G1, but it fits the tone of the series. It's slightly more gritty, it's not
Exactly.
quite as
Oh yeah.
clean. And it's
Exactly.
yeah. Studio series
And
figures
it's funny
when.
because they've had a couple. He's writing the story and he did the artwork for the first 6 issues.
Yep.
They got another artist. I forgot his name. I do apologize for the next six. That arc just recently ended. I think issue 12 is the one that just came out. But that artist did a very good job of not deviating too far from the look and feel of the comic. So it's like it's continuing right along with it. I think we have a different artist coming up. So I'm sure they're picking them great. I'm sure they'll do a great job. No worries here whatsoever.
Alrighty. So Transformers is the big part of your work and everything, but obviously so is the customizing. So what got you into customizing? You said you do model kits and you do drawing as well. Like art in general is clearly your forte. Where did that start? Was that something you began with very young? Did you go to any art colleges or anything?
Oh wow. I wish I could have gone to an art college. Sadly, that was not in the cards for me. But I'm mostly self-taught.
Yep.
I did take art classes in high school. I was one of two students in my entire high school to go to advanced drawing and painting all
Hey.
4 years. And I still have the. I think for my senior year, they just have us do one painting for the whole year, and that's going to be a whole grade. I still have it in my parents' garage. I keep telling them, guys, is this thing is not really being kept out of. We should probably just get rid of it. No, 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 it's going to stay there forever, is what they say. All right, so they have it there. But I go as far back, I think, into the age of 5. What my mom told me that I was drawing, and I would just be drawing. I had this little art tablet, and I would stick them up on all the walls. Very much into Mickey Mouse and Looney Tunes
Oh yeah.
back then, which I still love to this day. And just very being creative, being good with my hands. Even with model kits, it was at a very young age, maybe like around 10, 12.
Oh yeah.
And it's almost a tragedy because not knowing what I'm doing. I remember going to Universal Studios, and they had the Back to the Future ride back then, which I loved.
Yeah.
And they always take you to the gift shop at the end of the ride, and I saw this very good model kit for the DeLorean that was an import. I forgot the name of the company. Aoshima, I think.
Oh yeah.
Pretty advanced kit. Definitely not for beginners, but I wanted it, so I got it. And I'm putting this thing together, and I don't know anything about no spray painting or anything.
Mm.
Nothing about thinning your paints. I'm taking my brush and I'm dipping it in, and
Oh
I'm just
no.
lathering the body of this car in this gray. And I'm like, wow, well that looks really bad. Okay, well maybe that one didn't survive, but that's how it started.
I was gonna say, but
Little from that.
and that's how you learn, right? Is you learn by doing. There's only so much you can
Yeah.
read and be shown. And I think like everybody's got those projects, right? Where it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, so that's why you thin your paints.
Yes, exactly. That's how you learn little by little. You're not going to learn every single thing right at the beginning. It's going to be overwhelming, too much to take in. You're going to maybe do a little bit of research. Everybody's different. Everybody's comfortable with different levels, but it's going to come in stages. And if something doesn't come out right, then you kind of have to wonder, well, what did I do wrong? What happened? How can I make it better for the next one? Now, I will say this for that model kit that I sadly ruined when I did the eventual customization for Gigawatt on my
Oh, of
channel.
course.
I ended up using that old model kit to break the little logo, the DMC logo from the front, and to put it onto the front of the transfer. So a part of it lives on now,
That is
thankfully.
amazing.
It's not a complete waste, and I still have the box for some reason, but yeah, I was able to salvage a little part of it.
I love that. I love that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So you say you do Gundams and you got a DeLorean kit, obviously. Was there like a type of model kits that you were more interested in? Like, I know some people love the cars, or like some people into Warhammer kits and stuff. Like,
Oh
what
yeah,
was
yeah.
what was your? Did you have a favorite?
I think it was just the novelty of putting something together out of all of these little parts, whether you paint it or not. It's all in parts in the box. You put it together. You have something nice that looks in the end. Yeah, it's a wide variety. I would say mostly anything that's like sci-fi. Most
Yeah.
of the stuff that's like sci-fi, Gundams, Star Trek, Star Wars. The one thing that probably wasn't really of interest to me are like the actual like the war
Mm.
tanks or vehicles, realistic vehicles. That one really wasn't really that much for me. I would maybe do like some actual sports cars, like a Countach or whatnot. But if it was sci-fi, that's what really got me more interested into it. 100%.
Right. Yeah, and I've seen some of your posts here and there, and you got your Star Treks, and you got your
Oh yeah.
what's the ship's name? Enterprise? I'm sorry,
The
it's not my
Enterprise.
wheelhouse, I'm afraid.
It's okay, dude. No, 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 no judgment here. What kind of sucks is that I would still love to build more in the future. I have such a massive backlog of other Gundams,
Hmm.
definitely quite a few Star Wars kits, but because the focus that I'm doing now is the customizations, which I'm loving it. Obviously, I don't know when I'm ever going to do another model kit. You look at them and I'm like, wow. Maybe one day I'll pivot back over here. When I started the channel, it would literally be a Transformers custom and then a model kit, and a
Yes, I
custom then
remember
a model
those.
kit. I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
did that for like 3 or 4 times. At some point, because I was loving it, he said, "You know what? We're gonna do just customs here. How about we stick to that?" It's been great. I think one of these days, though, out of the blue, like, hey, here's another Enterprise, and we'll see how it does. Right? We'll see how it
Oh,
does.
I'd love to do that because like when you're doing because what you're doing is art, right? Like I
Yeah,
know some people might not say that's the right term, but I think it is, right?
hundred
You're
percent.
and you got to do it because you love it, right? So I think
Yeah,
like even if it's not gonna be like million views on YouTube, whatever, like if that's what you want to do, totally go do that. That's why
A
I
hundred
mean, the
percent.
numbers help, but I never let them control you.
100%. At the end of the day, what you are creating is what you're going to have on your display case, on your shelf, and it's something that you can always go back to and look at. Somebody else maybe built this ship, but it's not going to look exactly like this, or even with a customization, somebody else maybe customized this figure, but it's not going to look like this. And this custom that I made is now pretty unique, and it's something to be proud of and to be happy about that you were able to create this thing. And sometimes you look at it and think, wow, I was able to make this thing. How did I do that? I'd be able to go back and look at my videos, but it's ever satisfying. Now, yeah, you can buy like ships that are already pre-made, pre-painted. It's never going to be the same quality. It's never going to look exactly the same as much as the work that you're going to put into it. And that's what I love doing,
Absolutely,
and
and
you do
your
too.
your customs obviously show the work you put into it. I mean, your
Thank you, man.
Dinobots with all the chromey golds and everything. And those 86 Dinobots are lovely off the bat, right? But your
Yeah,
paintwork or or Daniel,
yeah,
oh my gosh, yeah,
yeah,
oh, you needed the work.
yes. I'm
Oh,
actually happy with how they turned out. They're actually display worthy now. So the only thing that's a bummer to like have people say is like, "Oh, it looks so great." Now when I look at mine, it's like crap. I'm like, "Oh, dude, I'm sorry, but
no, but
enjoy the
that's.
video."
But no, the
Yeah,
one I get is when you get that, and then you're like, "Oh, go on, then. I did it.
yeah,
What's stopping
exactly.
you, right? Like
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I've laid it all out in the video for you. You've got. I didn't have a
Mm-hmm.
tutorial, but you kind of do now.
Yes. Yes, you can
um,
do as much or as little as you want.
I mean, I'm stuck with Squat Wiki for a while, but I might have to upgrade mine eventually.
Really? Okay. All right.
um,
Well, you know where to go to whenever you're ready, right?
those oh gosh, the tampograph that you did for the face and everything, like that tiny a print. It's not something I've
Yeah.
been able to do yet because I don't have the equipment for it, but it fascinates me.
Yeah, and honestly, I was only able to do that because I was able to borrow the laser printer at the office where I work at. Otherwise, off of a regular home inkjet printer, you're not going to get as much detail, although it might still look passable, but LaserJet just was miles ahead of what we were able to do. And it was just, nothing too complicated, just some little black lines. It's just an impression of a face. We don't need it to look super, super, super complex, but just to have something there better than a blank blob of flesh, paint.
I
Yeah.
gosh, I remember trying to
Yeah.
paint like D&D miniature faces, and you try and do the eyes, and it's just like
Oh,
cartoon
dude.
dots.
Yeah, and having like the specific kind of brush for it. I have a special lamp
Mm.
that I have on my desk where you flip open the middle of it and it's a big old magnifying glass
Oh, I've got
that
one
I
of
do
those.
use
Yeah.
every now and then. Yeah, they come in so handy because the lights around it, so it's perfectly lit. But I can only do that for so long because even for myself, like yeah, like my eyes would just get tired
Yeah.
after it. There was a board game. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Hero Clicks. It's like D&D or like Warhammer, but they're based off of superheroes. Like would have the Marvel version and the DC version. I got into them years ago, and they would come pre-painted, but they were so sloppy, so messy. I definitely took the time to repaint a couple of them, but when you're doing a miniature, it's a whole nother level because it's the level of detail that's required for it. It's really different from a regular model kit. Man, it's just different. It's just different. Can be taxing a little bit too.
I don't know if you've heard of on films like Lord of the Rings and stuff, right? Obviously they use miniatures for their castles and stuff, but actually you're saying it's really hard to get detail that small. They have what they call bigatures because yeah.
Yes, I'm
um
familiar.
I got to go on a tour at Weta Workshop recently, which was
Oh,
amazing, and I
that's
got to see some
awesome.
of them. Yeah, they ain't mini at all. They're
Yeah.
there's this bit, and it's like, oh yeah, this is a section of the castle, and it's like,
Yeah, dude. Wow. That's
um,
amazing.
oh gosh, um,
I didn't know that they actually did tours for What It Works. I might have to look that up.
yes, yeah, they've got it's sort of its own little chunk, and it's all sort of closed off from the main building. But
Right.
they've got props and bits from films, or some reusing the castings. They had Hellboy Samaritan and stuff like that, which
Oh,
is
that's
great.
awesome.
Yeah, and it's just it's really awesome. It's a
Oh
little bit
man.
pricey, so you gotta plan your trips, but it's
Yeah.
definitely worth it, I feel.
I definitely
Um,
think it's worth it. All right. Thank you for the heads up. I'll have to keep that in mind. All right.
hey, you come up to New Zealand, you give me a shout, right?
I will. You'll be the first one to know. 100%.
So, oh gosh, I want to ask you about the drawing stuff because that's something you do an awful lot on your live streams. When you're not doing games,
Hmm.
you're doing drawings, and
Hmm.
you do traditional drawing with the inks and stuff. I've seen that on your Twitter, but you also do pixel art. Do you favor one or the other, or are they both like? Because I know the pixel art's more for your animations and bits, right?
Yeah. I have I have them primarily to drop once I'm complete. Once they're done, I can hit a button and have the animation play in Twitch and whatever, which is really nice. It's great. But that's the whole reason why I started with pixel art. I don't know if I do favor one over the other. I think I find it maybe just a tad bit easier to work with pixel art because easy and also difficult because I'm such a perfectionist. Like I'll literally go in and I'll see that, oh, this one pixel shouldn't be there.
Oh no.
We're gonna change that one pixel. Um, but and also because of the fact that we're animating it now,
Yep.
we're looking at multiple layers and whatnot. But it's very satisfying. I think depending on what the resolution of the pixel is, the very first ones that I made were very small. You can do them in an afternoon and whatnot because I now make them in high res, much more resolution, but they're still pixel art. It's a bit of a process. It's a bit of a process, but once you have them completed and animated, it's really satisfying to see them completed and almost hard to believe. Wow, I was able to do this thing. I think it's definitely the thing that I'm going to keep doing. In fact, I'm probably going to switch those over to my YouTube side just to have like more, a little bit more content of that over there. But I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. I love it. I love it. And you also learn new things as far as what works on a pixel drawing as opposed to on an actual ink drawing. There's different things that'll work for either one. So it's always good to have that in the back of your mind too.
What sort of stuff would that be? What's the stuff that doesn't translate that? Because in my head, a lot of these skills are like, I guess the basics transfer, you know, like anatomy drawing for characters and stuff. But like, I guess the technical side's different.
I think the thing that's most obvious for me is a lot of the shading. If you look at really good pixel art, it's not going to have super smooth shading from light to dark. It's probably going to go into stages, and the reason for that because you only have so many pixels to work with as opposed to an actual ink drawing or a higher resolution digital drawing. When I look at some of the more advanced pixel drawing, like if you have, let's say for example, just a hand, and you're doing a black outline on it, certain parts of the diagonal sections aren't going to translate very well into pixel art. So the black inks part,
Yep.
you're going to maybe blend them a little bit with the flesh. And determining what works better is just, I mean, for me right now, it's trial and error. But when you get it zeroed in and it starts to really look like a hand in pixel art, it's satisfying. But I would say it's a shading, if anything else. I don't pretend to be any kind of an expert. I've been doing pixel art just for a little while. That's when I look at other streamers that have been doing it for so long and they're doing it so fast because they're so good. I'm like, oh my god, I could have done that and saved myself like a couple of hours. Anywho, now I know.
I was gonna say, well, you don't know what you don't know, and you also got to
Yeah,
remember, like, even for me, right? I'm looking at your customizing videos, and I'm going, whoa, like that whole sort of like, whoa, how they do it so quick? And it's like, oh, you've been customizing for years, of course. Like
yeah.
it's
Plus, I'll fill you in a little secret. Like I usually edit out all of the tough parts. Like if I'm disassembling something
yeah,
and I'm like, oh, this thing is not wanting to like, I need to bring this up to my chest and like, oh, really, you're not gonna see that on the video.
yeah.
It's like I'll plop it and then I'm gonna be like on the video, okay, boop. So it's a little bit of cheating, a little bit of
uh,
cheating. But I think when I was doing the live stream of Daniel and Spike,
that's right.
you can't cheat anything there. If you're having a hard time, it's gonna be on the live stream. People are like, hey, Jose, are you having a hard time with what's going on? Like, yeah, that's how it is, you know. So yeah, you can edit a lot of things out, thankfully.
Yeah, oh god. My Ravage video that I did a couple months back, when I did the promo shots of it, I wanted to have almost like an ASMR style, like each sound is a click clack clock, like it's very crisp. And then the
Yeah.
lawnmower starts going in the background. And then
Oh,
and then I drop it and a
gosh.
bit sort of falls off, and it's like the editing
Oh,
always makes it look so much better, and it's why
yeah,
whenever because I've had people come around, they're like, "Whoa, can I see it transform?" And I'm like, "Sure." But you're gonna have to give me 10 minutes, even though it took 10 in the video, two in the video, because
yeah,
I gotta be extra careful.
yeah. I think part of it for me when I'm doing like the final beauty shots, because I'm such a stickler for how it looks, is to get the lighting looking really good. I
mm,
see some other channels that have been doing this for much longer, and they'll have some really beautiful shots where it's in low light, but you see some nice color lights coming in on the edges, and I'm like, how did they do that? Obviously, it's a lot of times it's having a little bit better equipment. Um, you have to do a lot of post processing with the images
mm.
in the editing software, which I do and whatnot. But at the point where I'm at right now, I'm pretty happy. Although sometimes I'll say, man, that would probably could have been a little bit better. So I'm going to try to improve on that on the next one and whatnot. It's just little baby steps,
Yeah.
little baby steps. I would never tell anybody don't ever watch my first video because it is so cringe, so cringe. It's not, there's no music. It's all just in silence. I'm doing this for like 10 minutes. Anywho, you learn little by little, little by little.
Oh my gosh, I actually have it on my desk here. Hang on. Yeah, I've actually got the first thing that I made on my channel, which is like a little
Dude, that's
Minecraft chest.
amazing.
It's great.
Nice.
You watch that video back though. Ooh.
Yeah.
It's like my lighting is terrible, so I look like I've been sunburned. You do
Yeah.
not have the confidence voice. I ramble. And it's like
Yeah.
you say you don't talk at all, I talk too much.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing about doing this is that like the fact that you are sat there and you're going, I'm not satisfied. I want to take it a step further. Even if it's like you
Yeah.
say, baby steps, like you're still making improvements. Even if it's small improvements, it's better than no improvements, right? And I think
Exactly.
that's something that overloads a lot of people like starting
Oh
YouTube.
yeah.
Is like,
Oh
gotta get it perfect first try. Nobody does. Nobody
no.
does.
No. No.
um,
And you're always going to be your worst critic as well. You know, I think one of the first things for me is that when I first started hearing myself in the videos, I'm like, oh, that's what I sound like?
yes.
No, that's terrible. We have to get past that. We have to get past that. And I think I prepared again, we were during the pandemic, the lockdown. I had so much time to myself. I tried to get a lot of details zeroed in. And I was happy with a lot of it as well, but it's not going to be perfect. So you have to just kind of bite the bullet and just kind of go. You're going to learn as you're going as well, you know. That's how it is. That's how it is, little by little. Yeah,
Yeah, and having that time to, like you say, zero in and everything, like you
sure.
got that time to narrow it down, right? Like it's
Hmm.
having a lot of spare time to do that because I had the same thing, right? I started my channel in what 2021, and again that whole year, it's like each video was better, but honestly, like I always say my favorite video is the one I've just done because that's the one that I've
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
it's the same way. Yeah, exactly.
But then as soon as you post a new video, you're like, oh no, don't watch that. It's whatever. No, no, no.
Yes.
Look at this. This is like every single
Yes.
time.
But
uh,
I would never go so far as to like a delist a video, an older video, because it's all a segment in time. It's all a road that we're going on. And as cringy as we might think that it is, that's where we started. I think it's also impressive to see that we went from that to where we are right now. You know, it's got to be there. It's got to
yeah.
be there. But I'd say people just don't watch it, but it's there. You know.
But actually, no, that is actually kind of cool because people can go and see, like, oh, wow,
Yeah,
he started at this and now he's
yeah,
here. Like, it's
yeah,
the fact that you've left that there, because I do the same thing, right? Like, I don't like those videos, but it's like, I want people to see how I started, right? Because it
yeah.
shows, because those people are going to be thinking the exact same stuff, right? And so to see the beginning to now is, I feel, kind of like reassuring.
Oh,
um,
sure.
yeah, I'm on the right path.
Yeah, and like I said, the way that my videos are right now, especially the customization videos, every type of video that I make, whether it's an unboxing video or just a drawing stream or a customization, there's a different level of work that goes into it. I would say that the custom videos are the ones that I put the most post work into it, the editing and the music, the lighting and the color corrections. I'm happy with how they look. I'm happy with how they look. But I could always see, oh, we can maybe make this look just a little bit better for the next one. Make a mental note. All right, we're gonna improve upon that. So here we are.
Do you ever get the bit where you hit upload, it's absolutely perfect, and then you've either forgot to take out a clip, so it's just a black spot, or the one I had recently on my Soundwave one is I forgot to reverse a clip. So when he transforms back, I'd put all the clips of him transforming from boombox to robot in the reverse sequence, and then I meant to reverse them so it looked like he turned from robot to boombox. So I've got each clip in the right order, but they're playing forwards, and it's
They're
only
playing
three
forwards.
seconds. Nobody else has
Okay.
noticed, but now that I've said it, everyone will.
Yeah, everybody will. Yeah, everyone's gonna look out for it.
But it was like
Um,
2 weeks after I uploaded it, and I'm like,
really?
no, did I
Oh,
really? And I was like, well, I can't take it down
yeah,
now, but
yeah. It can be disheartening. Nothing. Nothing. I think I would at that level. I think for me because I do get paranoid about little mistakes like that. As I'm editing it, I'm always rewatching stuff,
mm,
and then when I have my edits all complete, all of my sound mixed in, I watch the whole thing within the software within Premiere.
yeah,
And even after I've rendered it, I just replay it again. All right, everything looks good. So because there's a couple at least 2 or 3 times I'm gonna watch it before I upload it.
yeah,
Right. That's more so for the custom videos. Maybe like the unboxing was not so much because they're so simple. The unboxing was I'm in front of a camera.
yep,
I'm unboxing stuff. I'm talking about it. There's gonna be some cuts. I like to cut out all of the quiet parts when I'm not talking. Um, but there's not a whole lot of color correction. I'm like, oh, look at this, this figure. They're,
yep,
they're pretty simple. So maybe I'll watch it one time. They're okay. One time though, I think maybe. Oh, and when you mentioned like the little black parts about not putting the
yeah,
piece together, those do terrify me because I would notice it. Wait, why are you doing this? No, you're supposed to snap into the other clip. No, do it. I've caught some of those. And so sometimes I just zoom in all the way. You see the big old black part of the of the
yeah,
line there. I think what's tricky for me right now is that the way that it sounds in the editing software, and this is all behind the scenes.
yeah,
This is all inside baseball. The way that it sounds, that I have it mixed like my audio compared to the music, it'll sound a little bit different on YouTube after I've uploaded. Like, oh,
yeah,
the music's maybe a little bit louder than I would have liked, or maybe you can't hear it enough. So sometimes balancing that can be a little bit tricky, which is why I have it already preset. This level audio, this level music already sounds good on the YouTube side. So you know,
yep,
it's a matter of just kind of playing with it too and see what you're happy with as well. I've had one person tell me in the past, "Hey, great video." I think it was one of the review videos. It wasn't a
yeah.
custom. Great video. I had a hard time hearing you. Like, oh no, I'm so sorry. Oh, and because one person told me, I know that there's other people that have also thought that, but just didn't put a comment. So I'm like, okay,
Oh my god,
that needs to be fixed. You know?
the whole like one person said it, but how many people are thinking
Yes.
it? It
How
it
many people didn't say anything? Yeah.
drives me nuts. It gets to
Hmm.
because like whenever you get this, it's like okay, are they actually giving me feedback or are they just hating on my work? Because there is a balance of like some
Yes.
criticism is good and you want
Yeah.
that, but also are you just being rude? And stuff like that, like oh I loved it, but it was quiet, is like I think the perfect example of like
Exactly.
I liked what you did, but here's how you could do it better. I've had some people where they're like, they sort of tell me how to do my own projects, and by that point, I'm like, okay, so did you even enjoy anything you saw? Was it why are you?
Yeah.
um,
And you're going to get those. Obviously, the bigger that your channel gets, you're going to get more of those comments. I think for me, it's not difficult. It's not hard at all to tell if somebody's being constructive or they're just being, let's just say, nasty, right? Like I remember one of the first comments, and I'm not going to say word for word, but it was I think with my Optimus Prime video. Again, that's like the number one video on my channel. Everybody
oh
says
yeah,
Optimus Prime. I should have known that from the get go, but somebody said, "Oh, you totally ruined this figure. You some
oh
of the clear
no,
window parts I painted them, and you can't see through the windows anymore. Oh, this is ruined." And it's like, well, it is what it is. But I think for me, being a grown man, it's not going to affect me because I've got other things to worry about.
yeah,
I could
it's
see if it was maybe somebody younger, how it could affect them differently. I've had other people tell me, "Oh, I would never let you touch any of my Transformers because it's so bad." I'm like, dude, I'm not offering to transform to customize your figures and whatnot. This is not a problem. I think we're gonna be okay. So that stuff, it's like, okay, they're just being natural with it. But then, yeah, you have other people like, "Hey, great video, but I had a hard time hearing you," or "Have you tried doing this other method?" Yada yada yada. Oh, I'll definitely give that a shot. That's
Um,
how it is.
that's something I really love about because you've got a very active Discord community on the go, which is obviously where me and
For
you have had
better
a
or
lot of
worse.
back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something I love about your server is that whole like constructive critiques or advice and
Yes.
tips. Like I have learnt
Yes.
so much from the past year of just like I'll post an image, and then it's like, oh, have you tried this brand of paint? Oh, have you tried this
Yeah,
print setting? And it's like, I would never have known that unless you'd said, and oh my gosh, like, you don't know
yeah,
what you don't know, and so
yeah,
like,
100%. I have been sticking with Tamiya for the most part because that's what I know with acrylics and with even some of the rattle cans. And there are so many other brands that people have tried, and thank God for them. It has helped me to expand the arsenal that I have. I'll have paints now from other brands that I absolutely love now. That I wouldn't give up for the world. And I've got some other ones that I'm going to be working for my current project that I can't wait to try out to see what it looks like. But that's the beauty of the Discord. Yeah, there's so many people putting in their 2 cents of what they've tried, and that's what makes us all a little bit better in the end too.
yeah, I really love that sort of community spirit and that sort of everybody helping everybody. Because like with Maker, with art, there is no wrong way to do it, but there are
There really
different
isn't.
ways of doing it. And sometimes, like you say, like you'll find a technique where it's like, that would have made it so much quicker. I I wish
Yes.
I had known this years ago, but now you know, right? And then what do? You
Yes.
tell other people that, and especially you with your YouTube, like you're able to share that in such a big group of people as well. Like, oh, by the way, if you print your parts like this, you get much cleaner results. Like
Oh yeah.
you're using that platform to share that information, and I really appreciate that. I really love that.
Especially, yeah, if I've gone through a project and there was something that really stuck out as difficult, I'm definitely going to put that in the video. Hey, watch out for this. Even though I've had gone so far as to have some parts break on me, and because of I would lose the transformation, something that drastic and whatnot. But but I feel the necessity to share that because part of the reason videos, you have to figure it's other customizers watching this to hopefully learn, even though it might not be an exact how to step by step. There's things that are broken down in the video, so yeah, you're gonna hopefully learn quite a bit. And it's funny that you mentioned how um the different processes about you don't know what you don't know. There was somebody on the Discord, I forget his name. I think it's id armed, and
mm,
he posted some amazing work before. And there was something that he posted a while back as far as a custom. He'll repaint custom transformers into other characters.
yep.
There was a transformer that had some kind of a lightning pattern on his body, and I was so amazed. And I asked him, dude, how did you create that? And his response was, oh, I accidentally painted a layer over another layer that we hadn't dried yet, so the paint cracked, and it wasn't what I was trying to achieve. But I liked how it looked. Wow, that's freaking amazing! I never would have thought about doing that. Now I know that's how you can achieve that look. So sometimes with the mistakes, you get some better stuff too. Yeah.
I oh, pardon my language, but the around and find out technique. I
Oh yes, you will find out. You will absolutely find out. And sometimes the finding out is a good thing. Sometimes not. It's a bad thing. But even when you find that it's a bad thing, it's always a lesson learned.
yeah.
Maybe not to do certain things, or maybe the mistake that you did that created good results. Well, now you know how. 100%, 100%.
That's why I feel like there's never. I mean, you're saying about like your DeLorean and stuff, and it's like, oh, I ruined that model kit. No, you didn't. You learned an awful lot from that, and you
Yeah,
go, okay, I don't like that result. What do I do to change that? Is
yeah,
actually because there's an awful lot of people who don't, and they just settle for good enough. And I think that's
sure.
actually quite admirable.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like I say, I appreciate you sharing as much of the quote unquote failures as much as the successes on your channel because I don't know, it sort of makes it more relatable in a sense of like, oh yeah, you're not going to get it perfect every time. And obviously, editing makes you seem amazing with everything you, but
thankfully. But yeah, I'm never gonna pretend to be an expert at this. For as long as I've been doing it, I am still learning every single day how to achieve the results that we want to achieve. It's never not a learning process.
I love
Yeah.
that. So to go on a complete tangent, you mentioned you do gaming on your streaming, and I've noticed
Oh
you're
yeah.
you're quite a bit of a big gamer. Can we talk a bit about that? Because I only play games if it's to hang out with other people's social games, but you're playing a bunch of like single player Zelda and things like
Oh yeah.
that. Like, was gaming as big a part of your life as Transformers was as a kid and everything? Like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Before I had my channel, and even when I was doing customizations, there would always be a period of time. I would never do everything at once, which is the funny thing. There would be a few months where I would just focus on, oh, I'm going to do a model kits, customs, or there would be some months, all right, you know what? I really like this game. I'm going to be playing this game. pretty much 24/7 on all my free time. That's how I would do. I think primarily single player games. I love RPGs. I love seeing numbers go up. It's so satisfying.
Gives you that dopamine.
Yeah, 100%. And then playing them with the audience over on Twitch is extremely satisfying as well. Sharing that experience with all of them. When I started, I will say this: when I started, I was streaming only on YouTube, but I didn't know what kind of a schedule I was going to have. I was streaming almost every single day, which there's no way that I could do that. I could do that today. But the schedule that I had, just primarily on weekends, over on Twitch, it's been working out pretty good. I'll have the daytime if I'm free for pretty much the whole weekend. The daytime I'll focus for a big chunk of transformations, customizations, a lot of repaints, and then when the paint is drying, now we game in the evening. So it's a pretty good schedule. I did just have a big birthday subathon.
Yes.
This past, when was it, Sunday, which was a ton of fun.
Happy
I streamed
birthday,
for
by
like,
the way.
thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was for like 9.5 hours that I was streaming, and so sometimes you feel like, sometimes you can feel like your energy is waning. But because I was towards the end of Tears of the Kingdom, Legend of Zelda,
Oh yeah.
I just had to see it to completion. I had to see it completed, and it was so gratifying. Such a perfect way to end that stream too. Oh my god, so happy, and I'm ready for the next game, which will be next weekend. So I can't wait to start that.
I'll be looking
But
out
as
for
far
that.
as when I started, I'll say this: it was also back in the day. I think around like the 80s. I think my very first console was the Atari 2600,
Oh yeah.
and I couldn't get enough of it. It was like escaping to another world. And with every new console, especially back then, maybe not so much now, every new console was like a game changer as far as the graphics and the gameplay. And maybe I didn't have every single console growing up, but I was always a gamer. I always had, and it never really left me. And I think I'm going to continue to be a gamer. I'm looking at my backlog of like 100 games that I haven't played yet. Yeah, I'm probably going to be a gamer for some time to come. So
I found
I love it.
oh god, I found a Reddit post you'd done like 5 years ago, and you have just a wall of PS4 games, like
My
completely.
God, you saw that? Wow. You did your research, sir.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I gotta get my notes right. I gotta do it professional.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That wall is still here. Yeah.
How much has it grown in that time? Then is it like?
Well, I think the primary backlog is still PlayStation 4.
Yep.
The PS5, because it came out during a weird time, again during the pandemic, the lockdown, I don't think it's had a really good chance to really live. A lot of the games that come out nowadays are for both generations, the current one and the prior one.
Yeah.
Games will be up for PS5, PS4. So I don't think we've actually been able to get all the juice out of it, even though they've just announced the PS5 Pro,
Yep.
which is going to be coming out soon. And you have to figure they're on the planning stages for the PlayStation 6 eventually. My backlog is still primarily PlayStation 4. I do have quite a few games for the PS5,
Yep.
but I would say that I've maybe touched 10% of it. And I think part of the reason is because they are RPGs. RPGs are notoriously long games.
Yes.
Some of them can be 50 hours, 100 hours, and if you really get into them, the game that I just played, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, I think I played 100 hours of it.
I could have
think
sworn
I could-
I saw you streaming it like a year ago, maybe. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I got it. I literally got Tears of the Kingdom for my birthday last year.
Oh
I was
wow.
like, oh, I can't wait to start this. Yeah. Now, part of it, I did. Somebody spent. There's a system on Twitch where as you're watching, you're accumulating points, and you can use those points for different animations that I draw, like the pixel, whatnot.
Yep.
One of them is to pick a game out of my backlog,
Ooh.
for me to interrupt the gameplay and for me to start a new game. And one of my longtime viewers, Slaya, shout out to Slaya, he spent the point. I think it was 50,000 points, and so
Dang.
we pivoted to a different game that I was playing. And I had a ton of fun with it. And I played that game to completion. Thankfully, it wasn't an RPG. But then once that one was done, I got right back into Zelda. And now we are finally a year later completed. Wow, that is so true. I had forgotten that I got it a year ago. Oh my god. So yeah, I've played 10% of my games.
Wow. I really struggle to get in games like different kinds of games. For me, it was always like Minecraft. Like I feel like that is a bit easy to understand why I got into 3D modeling when you look
I
at
could
stuff like
totally
that.
see that.
Yeah.
Have you seen the news about Transformers coming to Minecraft now?
I have indeed. Yes, it looks very similar to Devastation, and Jazz is one of the main characters in it.
Yes. I don't think I've ever played Minecraft myself, but now that I see that, they look like really good models.
Mm.
I'm like, wow, that looks And to get that now before the actual, there was a AAA Transformers game that they announced,
Oh,
Reactivate, which
Rhea.
is, I don't know if it's in limbo. I don't know if we're gonna get it. I might just start playing Minecraft. I don't know. We'll have to see.
So I pointed out, oh, Jazz. I said that because obviously Jazz is your favorite bot, and so for me it's Hot Rod. Why is it Jazz for you? Because for Hot Rod, I feel like it's a bit more obvious. For Hot Rod, it's like, okay, he's got the wants to be leader, he's got this sort of like very admirable qualities, but Jazz, like, I mean, he's awesome, and I can totally see the
Yeah,
appeal. But is
yeah.
there anything particular that sort of pulls you towards them?
I think again, seeing Transformers G1 cartoon at a very formidable age, it wasn't a lot. It was the visor
Yep.
back then. Who had visors? A lot of, well, some of the Decepticons did, but as far as Autobots, not really. He was the one with the visor. He
Yeah.
was the one with the cool sunglasses and the voice that he had.
Oh
Just
my
such a
god.
cool voice. Like, oh, this guy I love. And it's not really so much of a thing now, but back then, if you look at I think some of the early episodes, I think he was like the second in command
He
because
is.
you'll
Yeah.
hear Optimus Prime, right? All right, Jazz, sound off in the Autobots and whatnot, and he'll do the roll call. You know, I just love it. I love it, and just the sporty car that he is. I actually did own a G1 Jazz when they had a commemorative re-release years ago. Years ago, sadly, don't have him anymore. But just the whole package that he is,
Yeah.
I love him. I can't get enough of him.
No, I totally agree. He's definitely one of those because there's a lot of G1 Autobots that it's like, like Bumblebee and Optimus. Like it's obvious why they took off their bright colors, their
Yeah.
fun designs. Jazz, I think he definitely fits into that pack, right? Like you say, he's got such a distinctive voice. I think the only other bots in that first season was like Soundwave with a visor, maybe. There's
hmm
probably someone I'm forgetting, and I'll be told about it in the comments. But
I mean, if we're talking about voice, I don't think anybody has a more distinct voice than Soundwave does, which
oh
is why he's
gosh,
my favorite Decepticon
yeah,
for that particular. Also, just having his own little mini army right in his chest,
yeah,
and just the monotone voice of it. Again, cool factor of a different degree, right?
yeah. Yeah, and
I love it.
what other 80s cartoon had that voice going on, right? Like there's a
hmm
reason it stood out.
Yeah,
Um Yeah, oh gosh. And so you're right, Jazz was totally second in command in those first episodes. I
yeah.
believe is it the first four that's the pilot series?
I
It's
think it's the first three, but again,
it's
it's
been a
been
while,
decades since
yeah.
I've seen it, so don't believe anything that I say. So
Yeah, but those original three, four, whatever it is, they were written separate from the rest of the show, right? It's a pilot, get
yes,
it started. And yeah,
yeah,
Jazz was the second in command, and Hound was
exactly.
the Kid Appeal character, and then Bumblebee took
Yeah.
over bits of that. But it's like I really wish they revisit that because I think
hmm
like what other shows he's shown up in, like Robots in Disguise, and like
Yeah.
the first Transformers movie, that Michael Bay one, and we know how that ended.
Oh God, let's not even. Oh
Sorry.
God, my boy Jazz. Oh Jesus. I will
uh,
say that when I got back into Transformers during the animated show, he wasn't part of the main crew, but he's part of the crew that comes in with the Autobot Elite Guard, right?
that's right.
And
Yeah.
just seeing him for the short few bits that we do, it was amazing. I think they got Jazz down really, really well in that show. So it was something special. It was something special.
If there's ever a bot that's going to join the elite guard, it's definitely Optimus's original second in command, right? Like
Oh yeah,
I
100%. 100%. And he was cool in that show too.
he was.
Very
He's got
cool.
the nunchucks, was it? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I forgot the voice actor's name. The voice actor, he was in the Mad TV show, which was like a skit show back in the day, kind of
That's
like
right.
Saturday Night
Yeah.
Live. Comedian. He did quite a few voices. I think he did Samurai Jack as well.
Oh wow.
Oh, I forgot his name, but he does such a great jazz, such a good one. Did him well. Did him well.
That's awesome. So I'm now going to sound a bit like a job interview person, but what is next for Hobbies with Jose? Where do you see you and your channel in 5 years' time? Are you still going to be making
Wow.
videos? Are you gonna? Do you think you're done? Like, where do you think this is going?
I think at the pace that I'm going at right now, I always do wish that I could make my customs maybe just a little bit quicker, but it's never going to be something that I'm going to try to rush at because I think at the forefront of my mind, I do try to have a life hobby balance.
Yep.
Obviously have work, I have family. I like to go out and enjoy the sunshine every now and then when I'm not gaming and customizing, right? But I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. Now, as far as 5 years, yeah, I think I I do plan on having a channel. I don't plan on stopping. But as far as what I'm going to be doing, I don't know because I like the content that I'm putting out right now. Um, the one thing that I probably will not be doing as much of is probably making the reviews. Every time I start a new project,
Mm,
I always make a review video.
yep.
And sometimes those can really be a little bit grueling because I do try to have, I don't have an exact script, but I try to have some bullet points, what I like to talk about. They have so much editing to do, so
Mm.
much post production. I could see myself just having maybe just a little quick chat, especially when I'm doing the unboxing. I'm having a first impression. This figure is great. I wish I did this different. I think that'll suffice,
Yep.
and that'll hopefully, ideally, allow me to lead right into more customs. Maybe doing a little bit of a quicker pace and whatnot. But as far as 5 years, I think it's going to be more of what I'm doing right now. Maybe a little bit more of a gray chin. I don't know. I can see them coming out, sadly. So, but I'm going to be doing what I'm doing. I don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
No, that's brilliant. And you said it, what's it? I love what I'm doing now. And I think that is such a key thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is like, as long as that is always, as every time you check in, right? And you say, do I like what I'm
Hmm.
doing now? And you can say, yes, you're on the right
Hmm.
track, dude. That's awesome.
Exactly.
I,
Exactly. I think with YouTube, you can get fogged down with being overly focused on trying to make the numbers go up because like as if it was an RPG,
I
and
was
who
gonna
doesn't
say, it
like
gives you
that,
the
right?
dopamine, right?
Yeah, exactly. It makes you feel good and whatnot. When I did start my channel, I was doing weekly videos.
Yes.
I would split up my customs into multi parts. Part one, we're doing the disassembly. Part two, we're doing the paint stripping, yada yada. And I could see myself definitely not doing that anymore because having to do a video a week, even though it was only maybe like 10, 15 minutes, it started to get grueling. I have to have this video out by Friday. That's my deadline. That's why I primarily stopped. Okay, every project is going to be one video. It's going to take as long as it takes, but it's going to be in one full package. And I think it's better for the long run as well. Having everything all together just in that one,
It's
not a super long video, but it's all
yeah.
together one package from beginning to end. I think it's more satisfying
I was about to say
doing
it's
it as well.
satisfying because you're not sort of like, all right, we're just about to. Oh, because
Exactly. Well, that's it for today. I'll see you all next week. All right, bye.
oh, what was
Yeah.
the? I did Laserbeak, my
Hmm.
first go doing that, and I was like you said, it's like trying to get a video out a week, and
Yeah.
if you're a video game YouTuber, like I'm not saying there's not as much work there, but it's a lot easier. Like the content is sort of it's a lot easier to generate, right? You hit record and it's your
Exactly.
personality, but
Exactly.
when you're like you're doing your customizing or my 3D prints and stuff, like you're waiting for paint to dry. Like
Yes.
you know, it's not feasible to get
Yes.
stuff because also like the reality is you probably could do it every week, but are you going to make stuff you love every week? Like, are you
No.
actually going to
Yeah.
like it? Um,
And is it going to be at the level that you're happy with? Like,
exactly.
okay, we are down to the wire. This video needs to be uploaded for it to be, ready to launch or whatnot. I think one of the last times that I did it when I was finishing up my customization for Grimlock, and I had the special chromey paint that I never used before. I ordered it from a website, or for whatever reason, it wasn't arriving. It wasn't arriving on time, and I was literally filming, and I'm like, "That's the last thing I need to finish Grimlock."
Oh my
I
word.
ended up driving about an hour away to a hobby shop. I don't know how many cities over because they were the ones that had it in stock. So I did that during my lunch at work. I took a long lunch. I got the paints, drove back, and after work, all right, we finally got to painting, and I came down to the wire, and that's when I started thinking, you know what? I don't think I can do this every single week, So that was the first thought to maybe get that changed. But the quality of the videos can be impacted if you have a really hard deadline. I could see in the beginning because you don't have any videos. All right, let's have a weekly schedule.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And people do get used to that. Oh, I'm gonna miss these Friday videos. I am too, but I promise they're gonna be that much more better.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they'll be worth the wait.
I think
You know.
that's it's something that like because whenever you're starting, I remember when I started my channel and I was doing research, and you get all of these like how to be a YouTube videos, and they're always like
Hmm.
quantity, regular
Yeah.
schedule, all that, and it's like
Hmm.
actually, I think obviously you can't drop out for 6 months and then come back and expect to
Hmm.
get that regular audience, but
Right.
like people do value quality over quantity a lot of
Oh
the time,
yeah.
even if YouTube doesn't, and does it,
Exactly.
and because the algorithm's a mess.
It
Um,
is.
but no, I can definitely see like your initial videos were not bad by any means, but I can definitely see like with your Dinobots, like the level of detail they get, it sort of it shows. It shows that the more time is being put into them. Um,
Yeah. And I think that in the long run, I just like to have the videos in the channel as best as I could have possibly made them. There doesn't need to be a point where okay, we need to stop.
Yep.
You know, we can be working on this video for 6 months if we wanted to.
Exactly. Yeah.
There has to be a point where all right, you know what, we're happy where it's at. We need to stop. But just to have the video live the way that it is, and as opposed to maybe something that got a little bit rushed. Oh man, if I had a few more days, I could have maybe done this. But that's how it's living forever now, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be happy with your right. But plus, that's part of the reason why I do like to have a little bit of variety of what I'm doing, not just the customs, but I can do an unboxing video in a weekend and be perfectly happy with how that is.
Yep.
You know, and how you said when I'm jumping over on Twitch, yeah, there's no editing. You know, we're live, baby. Hello, we're gonna play this game.
Oh my word.
When I upload them to my secondary channel, where I have all of my gaming videos there, there's a little tiny bit of editing. If I take a little restroom break for 5 minutes, I'm gonna cut that part out. Nothing major. It takes me 5 minutes. All right, let's render this video and it's uploaded. That's how much I can do for that. Imagine if I did as much post work as I did with customization. I couldn't do that.
No,
it's a lot of work. Just having one channel alone and then doing that for two channels. Forget about it. Forget about it.
There's a reason people hire editors at a certain point, right? Like
Exactly.
and it's always so grilling because like the editing is the part where like because I feel like I don't know if this is true for you, but I always like whenever I'm doing a YouTube video or a project for YouTube, I do have an idea of at least what I kind of want it to look like in the end, right?
Yes.
And the editing is when it's finally like, because you'll talk to family members about it, and you're like, oh yeah, I've got this idea for, and it's only once you've edited it that they can see it as well as you.
Yes.
But it's also like nobody sees the editing, right? It's the boring part, and it's always there's always that bit in my brain that's like, oh, maybe I could just, and it's like, no, if you rush that, again, it's quality over quantity, right? And I think it's again talking about people who do like gaming videos and stuff, how it's a bit quicker. A lot of their work will be in the editing. You got two jobs. You're making the custom and you're making the video. That could be 2-3 people's worth of work. You're doing it by yourself as a hobby as well. Like I'm impressed at the upload schedule you got. Even if it's not weekly, you're doing a lot quicker than I do.
Thank you. And it is something that that you learn little by little. You mentioned how having just a slight sliver of an idea as I'm filming. One of the things that I did like in the very beginning of my channel, not knowing really anything about what the editing would be afterwards, because I learned editing as I went, right?
Yep.
As I'm talking, I tried to say everything that I wanted to say in one take.
Oh no.
And as soon as I made a mistake, I was like, oh, I gotta start all over now. I was getting so frustrated in the very first video. And then I figured, wait, I could just cut that part out and just keep going, right? So now, as I'm talking, and then something, oh, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let me just say that part over again. But you learn how to make little pauses when you're speaking.
Yep.
And you're thinking, okay, right here, I'm going to have a little cut.
Oh, you do that
and
too.
then I'm going to continue saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, because it would be insane not to. You know?
And you figure out, like, what's the right amount of pause so that when you go to edit it, the waveforms have an obvious gap. And then you're like, oh, that's a take. Hang on, how many times did I do that take? And then you go to like the last gap and you're like, okay, that's the take I think I want to use. And you might find that actually like you'll merge takes bits. But that's interesting. I quite like that. I'm glad it's not just me.
Funny? Yeah, you know what's funny? Like whenever I do multiple takes on something, like when I'm saying something and I say it a certain way and I said, oh, I could probably say this in a different way. I'll say it again. I kid you not. I will say something like 10 times. And then I'm going back to the edits. I'm like, oh, wait, the first time was actually really good. I'm going to go with the first take. And then I just wasted like 15 minutes of re-saying it again. Sometimes you don't know how it's actually going to look, like, or your facial expressions.
Oh.
Again, inside baseball.
Yep.
When you say something the first time, sometimes it just looks more natural. You sound more naturally than when you say it the 10th time.
Yeah.
When you say it the 10th time, I'm not an actor, so you can probably tell. Oh, you know, it looks more rigid. You know.
You're sick of it after the 10th time, right?
Yeah.
And you're like,
and you can see it in your eyes too.
Yeah. Oh gosh, especially because I don't typically tend to repeat a lot, but like the intro, like it's the first thing that someone's gonna see. You gotta nail it.
Yes.
And do you script your videos? Like, do you or do you do just because for me, I do bullet points of like, okay, I'll look through because I do the voiceover at the end, and I'll look through all my footage of the build, and I'm like, okay, that's a key point. Write that down. Okay, that was a big mess up or whatever. That's crucial to like the story almost. Do you bullet point or do you script it all out?
Yeah, the only time I used to do actual scripts when I did some of my earlier reviews.
Yep.
And it was just a lot more work. And I found out that when you're reading a script, again, you're not sounding quite as naturally. So as you do, I have bullet points with the points that I want to get across. If I didn't have any notes whatsoever, because I've done some videos like that with no notes, and I'm just going on the fly, then I'm editing, and then I'm like, oh, I forgot to say this one thing.
Oh,
Oh, I should have had
yes.
some notes. There's no way I'm going to go back to the table and review. Okay, well, maybe I'll put a little text. Oh, by the way, yada yada yada. Well, but no, it's bullet points,
Yep.
and I'm just going to say it naturally, and I have an idea of how I'm going to edit it. One thing I haven't done though, I haven't done the audio afterwards when
Mm.
I'm editing. I have a pretty decent camera when I am filming over on my studio desk, and I'll have the segments when I'm actually talking about what it is that I'm doing, and then I'll have the segments when I'm doing what it is that I'm doing. I've been thinking about maybe changing that up a little bit,
Yep.
maybe to sound a little bit more crisper,
Yep.
or to have. I do have people tell me, oh, there's like a whole segment of like no talking whatsoever.
Yep.
It's just a lot of doing. It would help if maybe I did a little more explaining. So that's something that I'm thinking about maybe switching things up in the future. But again, it's these little changes I have to experiment with. Okay, well, because you haven't done it before, what is it going to sound like? We'll have to
Yeah.
see how it goes.
I would love to see that. Like, just even if it's just a one-off and it's just like we'll see how it goes, because like
Yeah,
you don't until you try, right?
exactly.
I think the only reason I defaulted to the end is because like when you're on camera, it's like I love presenting and doing this, but like if I was to do this for like I can't do the streaming, right? I got to be on for like how many
Yeah,
hours? I
yeah.
my
Oh
presenter
yeah,
mode is just drained. So I'm impressed you do it
yeah.
as you go because like that must make editing so much nicer as well. Like you've already got the audio that's meant to match with that clip.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. I've already got it, and so even when I have like different arm movements or whatever it is that I'm doing, the voice is already there with it,
Yeah, it's
so
already
I don't have to worry
synced.
about having to make a voiceover over on top of it. But yeah, you're right. I don't know if I could be in front of the camera the entire time too. I think just having my little segment at the end of the video where I'm doing the outro, the final thoughts of the project, what it was,
Yeah.
doing that in front of the camera, it just feels more natural to me. Again, different YouTubers will have totally different methods. There's some that will never be in front of the camera. And that's totally cool as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And there's even some that won't even have any audio. Like there are some channels, I forget what they're called. There's a couple where it's not even Transformer centric, but they will take like this old rusted up car
That's right.
and
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
clean it up and they'll disassemble it and they'll strip all the paint, get all the rust off, make it look nice and thick. And there's not a single peep of a word ever. They'll always have these nice gloves on. There'll be some text, and they get so many views.
I know.
And I'm like, well, what if I did that? I don't have to say anything.
What am I doing wrong? Why is this random like
Exactly. Part of it is so satisfying. You hear every sound effect of when they're taking it apart. I think they're obviously boosting up the audio, and I
Oh
try to
yeah.
have that too. It just sounds so good. It sounds so enriching, so satisfying seeing the whole thing being brought together. But
Yeah.
that's how they do it. So again, I'm happy with my process. It's always going to be a work in progress.
Yep.
But I just can't help to notice that. You're like, wow, that looks really good.
And that's actually something really good about like because for me at least when I started my channel, it's a lot of it was sort of copied off the channels that I like, right? Like you sort of
Mm,
even if it's not intentional, you do what you like, right? And it's sort of I think it's quite fun seeing like when you've been able to say, okay, I didn't enjoy doing that, so I'm not going to do it again. Yeah, but you've
mhm.
tried it out. You're figuring out what that makes you unique. So even if you start off being like a direct one-to-one comment, which you didn't, but
Oh,
like
sure.
if you, I know a lot of other beginner channels who is like, oh, I don't want to start because I'm just ripping off such, and it's like, nah, because in a year's time you won't be.
Yeah, exactly.
um,
And that's how you take inspiration from the get go too. You got to start somewhere, and then you're gonna start doing what's most natural for you as well down
yeah,
the road.
yeah, and what's more natural for you. I feel is what gives it your style, right? So like
Yeah.
I do the voiceover at the end, you do the voiceover as you do it. I actually kind of envy that sometimes because it means you can have there's little bits you catch where it's the off as it like I
Oh
don't know if
yeah.
you've had many of
Sometimes I'll leave
those,
it
but
in. Yeah.
yeah,
If it's super funny, yeah, I'll leave it in. Yeah, why not? We'll get a little laugh. Hey, I messed up right here.
yeah, it's the only bit I wish I had from my because I'm always playing music or YouTube in the background, so I can't use that audio
Mm.
from the clip, and it's always the bit like the part goes flying off, and it's like I wish I could have had my reaction from
Oh.
that. And instead, you just get the whole "that was very difficult" at the end, and
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't quite have the same vibe.
Yeah. It is cool to know that I'm in a part where I'm not going to be talking. Like if I'm doing some miniature painting, you're not really going to hear the brush rubbing up against the plastic. So I'll actually have some music in the background, and then I just kind of get rid of all that. You're gonna have the whole background music in the video whatsoever. But when I am actually speaking, then you have like the dead silence, or sometimes like when it's a hot day and have like my little fan
Oh yeah.
in the back. I'm like, I hope the fan doesn't come up in the microphone because that will be problematic, but thankfully it
Uh,
never really does.
my
Yeah.
issue is my where I record is very weather dependent. So if it's windy,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
hear it. If there's
You
birds
hear it, huh?
outside, you hear it, and it's kind of funny because it's like I've used the exact same mic every single time.
Yeah.
I've literally got markings on the floor, so I put the tripod in the same spot every time, and
Oh,
it's like
nice.
still have to tweak it every time, still have to
Yeah.
change it every time. It's never the same, and it's like, oh my god, but
Plus,
it's
just wear and tear on the materials. Like on my tripod, I've only had one tripod before than the one that I'm using now, but I've noticed that little by little, as I'm placing the camera on it, it'll start to kind of sag to myself. Like, why is the tripod doing that? Well, I got to extend this one leg a little bit more now to get it back up. It's just these things don't last forever, sadly. So
yeah.
that's how it is.
It is that's another key thing I think is really cool though is that like you don't need the fanciest equipment anymore,
No,
which is
you
really
don't.
nice. Like I'm doing all of mine on an iPhone. Like it's not even the latest iPhone. It's like 3 4 years old now, and it's
Damn,
still
that's amazing.
and it's like so it's and by the time you get to that stage where it's like the tripod's on a bit of a lean. It's at that point where you can actually be like okay I now know it's worth that. Maybe I could get an upgrade, and it's not like
Exactly.
because you don't want to spend all that effort on the tech at the start and then not use it.
No, 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 no. You don't want to do that, especially if maybe if it's not a sure thing. If you're going to be doing this for the long run, especially if you don't know how to use a lot of this equipment, maybe you can run the risk of not using it properly and whatnot. Not until you're really comfortable in it. When I started, I had some basic stuff, some basic lights, the tripod. I had a not a super fancy camera. I think it was like a Canon camcorder, and I still have it too because when I do the model kits live on
Yep.
YouTube, I'll have the dual camera setup,
Yeah, I
so
really
it
like
comes in
that.
handy. But when I got my new Sony one, and I say new, it's a couple of years old, but that's when I upgraded my videos to 4K, which was a
Yeah,
blast to see that extra
it's so
detail.
crisp. I
Although the size of the files that I'm editing are like 10 times as large now, and it takes a whole day to render, but I think it's worth it, right? But even then, I'm thinking about, well, I can't help because I like to have like nice tech as well. I've invested. It's called I forget what it's called. I think it's a camera rail system where you have a camera on one end, and as it's
oh
moving, the camera is tilting, and it gives you these nice, beautiful shots of like almost like a 360 of whatever it is that you're filming. It's super nice, but it's a pain to set up, and I don't use it a whole lot. I really should because I spent the money on it.
yeah, yeah,
But it's little things like that that can make a difference for a video too. But again, to begin with, this stuff is not even necessary.
yeah.
Like you said, an iPhone can be more than sufficient for this, and then down the road when you feel comfortable, yeah, you can expand.
Because I think by that point, like it's not, it's an investment that you know is worth it. Because like when you're,
Exactly.
like you said, like when you're first starting, you don't know if you're in for long haul. You might do a video and you're like, no,
Yeah.
I hate this actually, and
Then you
now I
find out
just
you don't
spent.
you don't like it at all. This sucks. You don't know.
I
You're like,
think
oh damn, I bought a $2,000 camera. What am I gonna do with it now? Well, find something else.
I think the worst thing I did is that and it wasn't even that expensive, but it was a nice microphone. So it's like, well,
Mm,
I don't just want to use the phone mic, right? It's a
mm,
phone. I got this
mm.
nice mic, and it's like, oh, it actually sounds worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it had like
That's
popping and all
crazy.
of this like because it was a cabled one, so it's
Oh,
got all the crap. Well, they're all cabled, but you know what I mean. Like it had a
yeah.
lot of that distortion. It was like, thankfully, it
Oh,
wasn't a ridiculous amount. It was like a
yeah.
I don't know a gamer's one, so it was like on a budget, but it was still like
Gotcha.
I think I need to just see if I can make what I got work.
Yeah.
But
Were you
when
able to
you
fix the audio in post processing?
yeah
Clean it up a little bit? Okay.
yeah yeah yeah
It just made a lot more work for you though, right?
sometimes I think
Yeah.
because I do all my voiceover in one clip at the end. So if I
Okay.
make sure that I don't because obviously I slice that into the bits that I need. So if I
Yeah.
do all the audio working before I've sliced it, all of the slices have that fixed for me as well.
Uh,
So I make sure I get that sorted at first. What software do you use to edit? Because I use DaVinci Resolve, which is like a really nice
oh.
free one. But I don't.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about DaVinci Resolve. No, I do have Premiere.
Yep.
I do have Adobe Premiere, which is it's not the cheapest thing, but I think it's if it's in your budget, depending maybe on what version. I think they have some where you have to do a subscription, which I think is kind of silly for a piece of
No, I.
software. I could never do a subscription. Anywho, hi you Adobe. I forgot what version I have, but it's fantastic. It's like editing a video for me. I actually do enjoy it quite a bit because I find it really intuitive what it is that you're trying to do in a specific piece of an edit. If you're doing a hard cut, or if you're doing a softer cut, or whatever effect you're adding on top, I find that so satisfying, so fun. And if there's something that I don't know how to use or do, it's like a Google search away, and there's like
Yeah.
15 YouTube videos on how to do almost anything. I love it. I really do love it. One of the hardest things that I did way back when I actually did my last Star Trek Enterprise model kit,
Yep.
when it was a multi-part thing, on one of the videos, I beat myself out of the video. I said, "All right, beat me up,
That's
Scotty, or whatever."
yeah, that's right.
And I had to research how to do it. You have to film up what they call like a blank plate of
Yep.
just the chair, and you have to sit on the chair. And then when I'm editing and then the software, it took some doing. It was a little bit grueling, but it was so satisfying in the end to
Yeah.
see that in the video afterwards. So I do like it, but I've heard a lot of good things about DaVinci as well. Hopefully, it hasn't been a hard experience for you.
No, no. From what I can tell, DaVinci's got a lot of similar stuff to Adobe in a sense of
Uh huh.
like that there are some limitations, and they would like you to pay for it, obviously.
Okay.
But it's usually like the paid version makes it easier, but not impossible. So like on
Okay.
the Ravage video I did, I did a stop motion at the start where he transforms. And
Mm.
I wanted to add motion blur so it looked a little bit nicer. And if you get the paid one, that's just a filter. But if you don't,
Uh,
like you say, it's just a YouTube video away because someone's made a
yeah.
tutorial where you go into the editing bit. You use nodes, and you have to be a little bit tech savvy to make it work. But if you're a nerd like me, you
Yeah.
you get there eventually.
Just got to put the elbow grease into it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
what you're saying
Okay.
about that final it being satisfying when you're doing the final, like getting that beam up and everything,
Oh
I
yeah.
totally agree. It's that moment where it's like, because when you get that base footage, it looks so ridiculous, right? Like,
Oh
and
yeah. And
I've,
it's super janky, you know. I
yeah,
mean, it's not the most perfect beam out in the world. You're not going to see it. It's not movie quality, but the fact that I was able to do this, in my home with this software, I'm happy with it. Nobody complained about it, So it was nice. Also, I did a tiny little bit of stop motion sometimes in my earlier videos as well, and it's just
I still want a super cat.
yes, Super Cat. We haven't seen Super Cat in a while. Super Cat's okay though, but just the grueling thing of having to take the images and whatnot and slicing them all together and then putting the sound effects on top of that. I have a lot of respect for people that do that. I always enjoyed the lazy eyebrows
Mm.
videos because he would do some really top notch transformations on his channel, and it's a lot of work, dude. It's a lot, making a whole video like that. I could imagine it being quite a bit, quite a bit.
Oh god, lazy eyebrow. I do the Blender animations now, but before that, lazy brow eyebrows why I got to stop motion and stuff at first.
Really?
That was
Yeah.
yeah. It's stopped
He's
now,
a
isn't
big
he?
inspiration. I wish
Yeah.
we would see more of him. I know he's only like semi-retired. I know we'll probably get a video sooner or later, but can't be soon
Yeah.
enough. That's for sure.
No, but it's so cool that like this like the Transformers community especially is actually filled quite a lot of makers. I find like yourself,
Yeah.
Lazy Eyebrow is customizing his own. Like
Oh yeah.
it's actually really cool that it's like I don't know. We all got inspired by that fun cartoon in the 80s, but then we end up
Exactly.
learning how to do editing software, to do a beam up,
Yeah.
how to do all of this post production stuff. It's like it's I remember when I was younger and I was like, okay, so it's just I'm into cool robots, whatever. You're allowed to have hobbies for the sake of it, right? Because it makes you happy. But it's
Hmm.
kind of fun, I feel, to look back on it and be like, whoa, something as simple as that inspired all this. That's kind of
Yeah.
you never expect it.
That's true. I mean, to look back at my channel now and see all the videos that have gone up there, and to think, wow, I made them obviously not all in one night, but little by little, just kind of uploading on there. It's pretty gratifying. It's pretty gratifying, and then to even hear people, yeah, watching your videos inspired me to try to do it now on my own customs and whatnot. That's always great. I love to hear it.
I,
You
I
know.
a lot of your stuff taught me with the even though I wasn't doing customizing of pre-existing figures, when I'm doing my
Mm.
3D prints and stuff, and you were showing how what was it? It was little things like painting the eyes, right? They're usually on a separate piece, and you slot it all together.
Yes.
I always design my parts so that they're separate pieces now, so I get
There
crisp
you no,
edges.
that's freaking smart.
Yeah,
See, you're
yeah.
absolutely learning because
I
then that would just make it a ton easier
Yeah, you don't have to
to
mask
get them
it.
painted in.
It's yeah. So
Exactly.
it's really cool, and I really appreciate you having that all up there for free as well. Like you just put it on YouTube, and anybody can
Mhm.
watch it. It's amazing, man. I thank
Dude,
you.
the work that you're doing on your channel, come on, man. It's like so many levels beyond like just to make a transformer out of scratch, my friend. It's amazing. It's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what you do next.
Likewise, and I hope like my goal is to do what you've done for me, right? Is to inspire other people and
Yeah.
to show. And it's like, even though I've learned it from your videos, they might not have seen your video, but now they've seen mine. So that
Hmm.
information still gets shared, and that's something I
100%.
really love. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Dude,
Um,
thank you.
we've been talking well over an hour now.
Oh, has it been over an hour? What?
Hasn't felt
Felt
like
like that
it.
for like 30 minutes. Yeah, it hasn't really felt. I'm telling you,
um,
once you start talking here, it's like,
so before we head off, Jose, where can we find you online? Where are you based? We've obviously got your YouTube, but what
oh
are the names?
God,
What are the handles?
where can you not find me? Unfortunately, other than YouTube, Hobbies with Jose. I have the secondary YouTube channel, Hobbies with Jose Gaming, where all of my gaming VODs go. I'm on Twitch, as I mentioned before. Streaming on weekends and on Fridays. I have the schedule there. Social medias, all of the regulars: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads. I have a TikTok. I have a TikTok as well, and they're all Hobbies with Jose. Thankfully, you can find me pretty easily, and I do try to post on a pretty regular basis, especially when I have any updates that I post for like the behind the scenes of what it is that I'm working on there. You can always find that stuff there.
Awesome. Alrighty. Thank you so much, Jose. I will catch you later.
Thank you.
See you in the Discord.
See you then.
Bye. Alrighty, that's the recording done.
All righty, dude. That was awesome, man.
That went so well. Thank you. Oh my word.